Much, Pete. We appreciate it very much. To both of you, I will say that you have a committee member that doubles on the side where he comes up here on a regular basis and serves as our vice chairman. Chairman Cole is a valuable part of your committee and is a valuable asset of this committee. And I will tell you that his adherence to the principles that have been discussed by both of you about the need to make sure that our government properly and effectively receives the money that it needs with the correct oversight is essential. But I want you to know that there isn't a day that goes by that Chairman Cole is not an active, integral part of the decision-making and the discussions that go on here. And I want to take that time. When you're in the room, Mr. Chairman, I know I'm his second favorite chairman. And for good cause and for good reason. We're allowed those opportunities in life. Mr. Chairman, can you tell me, are there controversial items in here that perhaps were resolved? As you might know, I've not had a chance to go through the entire bill.
I think that it's been conferenced with the four corners.
So
I think we're in pretty good shape. We are, I should add, committed to doing the 10 other appropriations bill. We believe in our committee in regular order getting the job done.
Yes.
So as we speak, both the House and Senate members and the clerks are getting together to finish the other bills. We have that commitment to do that.
Well, as a matter of fact, you did have a commitment, and both of you mentioned the Honorable Kay Granger from Fort Worth, Texas, a sterling performance that she turned in on the foreign ops side. She's doing now, I believe, on this military side. And I think we're going to continue to see not only an adherence to getting our work done on time, but a real push to focus on the activities to keep us leading edge. And I'm really satisfied with not only the discussions I've had with the gentlewoman, but really where we're going to go from here. And so best of luck. Thank you very much, Chairman Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for those very generous comments. I appreciate it very much, and it's good to see. In your presence, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to say my favorite chairman, but I am going to say a chairman that's very important to me personally. And so, Chairman Friedingheisen, it's great to have you here. Mr. Vysotsky, it's always great to have you, or a great pleasure of serving with both of you on the House, the House Appropriations Defense Subcommittee, and where Mr. Friedingheisen was recently the chairman before he was elevated to this new spot, and where my good friend from Indiana continues to be the ranking member. And as I think I know this committee knows, nobody takes the defense of the country more seriously than the two gentlemen in front of us, and nobody have worked harder across the aisle to make sure that we come up with a common product. I don't have a lot of questions about the bill because obviously on the House version I had the opportunity to be there as they work through the knotty issues and participate in that. I do think it's important for this committee to understand that this bill is absolutely critical to the authorization bill that we passed last year. A lot of our members forget just authorizing something doesn't mean very much, but lining up the money with the authorization is everything. And you can go in example after example we passed an authorization bill last year, but without the appropriations bill, it just can't get the things done it's supposed to do. In that regard, I agree with my friend from Indiana very much. We should have gotten this done. I know my friend, the chairman, tried to get this done. Late last year, it should have been done that way. It could have been a very bipartisan product and very much compromised. And I know the product itself still is a very bipartisan product, but I think it would have just been better to do our work in a timely fashion. And it certainly would have spared the military a lot of the problems that go with the continuing resolution that they've had to work through the last several months. And once we get this one done, I want to reinforce and echo what the chairman said. We need to move on to the other bills because all the problems that come from a continuing resolution in defense exist in every single other department. So again, I know my friend the chairman, I know the ranking member are both working toward that end to try and push us along, and some of those bills are more contentious than others, but they all need to get done, and they all need to come before this group, and We need to not give into the inevitable temptation of having a CR at the end of April just to finish out the year. That's we're going to be able to avoid that in defense. We pass this bill and the Senate follows suit. We ought to redouble our efforts to avoid that in all these other areas. I do want to make one other point. I want to agree with my friend, Mr. McGovern. This isn't the appropriate vehicle potentially, but his point is exactly right when he talks about the need for a new authorization of the use of military force. We've agreed on that in the past. I would suggest to the administration, I know they got a lot on their plate, but the President has tasked the Department of Defense to come up with a new, more fulsome strategy in dealing with ISIL. To me, that's the precise time you ought to come with the authorization as well. We don't need just a new strategy. We need Congress deciding whether or not it's going to actually authorize this. We did that, you know, in the case of the Gulf War. We authorized, obviously, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. We haven't done it since. And we have different theaters of operations. We have enemies that didn't even exist at that time. You know, we're involved in a lot of places that when people voted on authorizations in 02 and 03, they never expected to be. We're there. So Congress should weigh in on whether or not these things are appropriate. And I agree with my friend, Mr. McGovern. It's avoiding our responsibility. It's very dangerous long-term for the Congress and for the presidency, honestly, if we get into a situation where presidents, regardless of the party, and I think we did this personally in Libya. That was my view at the time. So, you know, we shouldn't have been engaged. It's a stretch to me that Libya is somehow covered by our NATO treaty. I don't notice that they signed it. And yet we use that as a justification for war, and we should have never done that, in my opinion. We're lucky we didn't lose anybody. But I'm going to continue to work with my friend on the other side of the aisle, and I hope both our leadership and the Congress and the new administration will see this the same way that he and I do and take our constitutional responsibility seriously. Let me just end with this note. Again, I want to thank both of you because I know what a labor it has been to get us to this point. This is over half the discretionary budget of the United States that's in this bill. And you not only moved it across through our committee, you moved it across the floor of the House. You've now conferenced with our friends in the United States Senate, and you've come back with a bipartisan measure. And I'm sure neither of you is satisfied with every single thing in it, but it really is a sign of how the Congress ought to work. And it wouldn't happen, Chairman, without your leadership, and it certainly wouldn't happen, Mr. Vysotsky, without your hard work on the bill and cooperation as well. And so I just hope we can continue this happy thing. I hope we can deal with the issues that my friend from Massachusetts raised too, because I think they're extraordinarily important to the Congress. And I look forward to this bill being on the floor. I look forward to supporting it. So with that, I know I don't have any questions because I trust you guys, and if I didn't trust you, I watched you put the bill together. But I do trust you. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Thank you very much, gentlemen.